Bush administration nor Clinton folks, not the 9/11 Commission, that's for sure, and certainly not the neocons. Michael Scheuer is the man who worked for 2+ decades for the CIA. It was he who formed the CIA's bin Laden unit. He ran it from 1995 until 1999. He's best known, perhaps, as being the author, under a byline of Anonymous, of a bestseller called Imperial Hubris. He's got a new book. It's called Marching Toward Hell. I've read it. I enjoyed it. It's provocative. Michael Scheuer, welcome back to the Radio Factor.
Thank you very much, Michael. You're very kind to have me back.
Your level of frustration in these pages is palpable, and there are a lot of different directions that I could choose to go to give folks the Cliff Note version. But I think that which I found most significant from the man who, is arguably the nation's leading authority on bin Laden is that you're frustrated because you think that 6.5 years removed from September 11, America's been sold a bill of goods as to what motivates radical Islam. Isn't that true?
Very much the case, Michael. And it's not only 6.5 years, it's really almost a dozen years since bin Laden declared war on us. And we're still being fed the really tripe of they hate us for our freedoms and liberties and women in the workplace.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't it Starbucks and the Gap and our porno and our pot smoking? And isn't that what motivated September 11?
The list goes on forever, doesn't it, Michael? What motivated 9/11 was the impact of our policies in the Islamic world, ours and our allies.
And you base that on what, sir?
Well, primarily on the enemy, what the enemy has said, and the fact that they've been able to generate a war which we are losing on two fronts at the moment, in Iraq and Afghanistan. But more than that, we've seen is an Islamic leader in the 1980s, the Ayatollah Khomeini, tried to instigate a jihad against America based upon that ephemera, the debauchery, the degeneracy, the elections, the democracy, and virtually no one was willing to blow himself up for that. Bin Laden and his lieutenants went to school on that affair and instead focused on something much more substantive and much more important to Muslims than McDonald's.
All right, but they don't like McDonald's, and they don't like the Gap and all the other things that I identified. But what you're saying is, no, they don't like any of that, and they certainly don't like giving rights to women. But that's not what's causing this level of violence. What's causing this level of violence is American foreign policy, and Michael Scheuer bases his opinion, at least in large part, on exactly what bin Laden has himself said and written.
And the fact that the movement is growing. And, Michael, we're in the unusual position of American politicians who can't go to the Safeway without reading a poll, not looking at the polling we have in the Islamic world, which shows that 80% of Muslims agree with Osama bin Laden regarding the impact of our foreign policy, regarding it as an attack on their faith and an attack on their brethren. And the other half of the polls that show most Muslim countries hold majorities and sometimes very large ones who admire exactly the things that we say they hate. The ability of Americans to educate their children, to feed and shelter them, the ability to find work, the ability to speak one's mind. And so what we really have is a political class that lives in its own very narrowly parametered world. And it's really immune to reality.
One of the things you say is that you don't think that policymakers have taken the time to read bin Laden's words, including his mid-'90s declaration of war, and you say that's akin to engaging in World War II against Adolf Hitler without an understanding of Mein Kampf.
Yeah, it's kind of a lunatic thing, Michael. I think I said to you, these guys want to make history without reading history. And it's stunning to me that the government itself hasn't made sure that every page and every word bin Laden's, Zawahiri, and the rest of them have said has not been translated and made available to Americans.
All right, let me ask Michael Scheuer this. Again, a man who used to run the bin Laden desk for the CIA. I want you to imagine that the presidential field is still at approximately 20 candidates. Everybody who threw their hat into the ring is still in the race for the purpose of this question, okay?
Yes, sir.
Among all of them, who gets it, in your opinion?
Only Ron Paul understood what was going on.
And he gets portrayed as a crackpot in certain quarters when he speaks this lingo.
Yeah, not only as a crackpot, but as an anti-American and an anti-Semite and all the rest of the vituperation that comes along with just recognizing the reality of the situation.
Which now gets directed toward you.
Yeah, but that's, I'm never going to be president. Mr. Paul was trying to convince the American people of the threat they lived under and how to alleviate some of it, and instead he was called unpatriotic and any other number of things.
All right, so now give me the prescription. If what you're saying is, first we need to understand what motivates those who want to kill us. And by the way, you're not some pansy on this. I mean, you want to take out bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri more so than the next guy, right?
Well, I think so, and I would argue that I would be willing to stay in Iraq if these guys intended to win. If they were going to send 500,000 troops there to do the job as it should be done, I'd be perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, but you say in the book that our attention got diverted. We should have crushed the Taliban and Al-Qaeda before engaging in another war. But I want to stay focused on the sort of the future, okay?
Yeah.
And you are, because of what you just said relative to Iraq. But it sounds as if you're saying, okay, first appreciate what motivates them.
Right.
Now, Michael Scheuer, now that I have come to terms with what motivates them, and that is a hatred, yes, of who we are, but more so of our so-called foreign policy, what are you saying? Wave the white flag and withdraw our troops from around, just give him whatever he wants because he wants it?
I don't think that's the case at all, Michael. I think you never change a policy to appease anyone, but you also don't keep policies that don't work in order to make sure that someone doesn't think you're appeasing them. What could be more obvious at the moment than we have wasted 35 years in now an increasing number of American lives because we've done nothing about energy?
Here's a line from your book. Put bluntly, as progress is made toward U.S. energy self-sufficiency, and that's, you say, just like putting a man on the moon, we need that kind of a commitment, right?
Yes, sir.
It will become obvious that there is no U.S. national interest in the Arabian Peninsula that is worth the life of a single U.S. Marine. Explain.
What could we possibly want there? It's sand, it's oil, and a bunch of Arab tribes. If they wanted to kill each other to their heart's content, who would really care? Our interest in that part of the world is freedom of navigation, and that's the job of the United States Navy, and that's easily done. But there's no national security interest in the Middle East, at least in the Arabian Peninsula, except for oil.
One final question for Michael Scheuer. The book is Marching Toward Hell, America and Islam After Iraq. And, of course, your reactions will be welcome at 877-9-NO-SPIN. In the footnotes of your book, by the way, you impressed? I got to the footnotes? There is a story that you share which is like a Rod Serling moment. Are you telling me that the National Security Council had some gathering around a conference table planning for the hopeful capture of bin Laden? And what did they do? What did they look at?
At that particular time, it was what kind of tape to put on his mouth in case we captured him and we had to silence him that would not irritate his beard to any great extent. They looked at masking tape, duct tape, and I think at medical adhesive tape.
We're sissified.
Oh, absolutely. We had to build an ergonomically correct chair so he wouldn't be uncomfortable, and shackles that were padded so he wouldn't be bruised.
Doesn't that really sum up the mindset that's doing us in?
Sir, the government cares, under either party, cares most about what the Europeans and the world are going to say about us. Protecting my daughters and grandchildren and yours comes very low on the totem pole for all of these people in both parties.
And you're an equal opportunity offender. I mean, in the book, man, it is the Bush administration, it's the Clinton administration with emphasis on Richard Clark, it's the 9/11 Commission because they didn't blame a single person for what went wrong on September 11. It's the neocons. You've got guts to say the things that you've said, and I hope people will read and debate your book. Michael Scheuer, thank you, sir.
Thank you always, Michael.
The book is Marching Toward Hell. Call me now, immediately, 877-9-NO-SPIN.